This is a bit where Jill and her companion Rocket, who Jill is not at all keen on, she's constantly trying to get rid of them, and they're not officially walking together. Jill is a girl of about 14 years of age. Rocket is a grandfatherly aged, crazy old scientist. They're on the road. They've discovered the road has power and has altered reality around them. And they've just come across a picnic, the most amazing picnic you can imagine, laid out on a table outside of a chocolate box cottage, a traditional thatched English or Scottish cottage. So you sneaked after me. Well, I used to be a Boy Scout, but I got some stuff from the wreck to bivouac with. He tapped the bundle at his side. You were up at dawn, but I had arisen long before that. Jill's mum had often called her a mouse because she could not help but nibble bits of cheese whenever it was laid out in the kitchen. It was a matter of seconds before Jill commented, "This cheddar is delicious, you should try some." Rocket groaned, "I still think you should ask whoever this is before you start playing finders keepers. I do hope that whatever happens next isn't as eventful as yesterday. I could do without all those kinds of days." Jill rolled her eyes. "You just can't see when things are going well. Relax, old boy. This is great. Anyway, now you're here, we could do with all the food we can get." Jill picked up a roll, took a bite, scooped up a curl of butter with a knife, and proceeded to construct a generous ploughman's lunch with cheese, pickles, fresh lettuce, tomatoes, and cucumber, and as much of whatever else was available to fit on the plate. Rocket held back. "Are you really sure that it's all right to eat? Isn't this the bit in most stories where the food turns out to be drugged?" Jill looked up at him grinning. "I don't think that scientists read many stories," she said. "All the boys at school who are good at science have soldering iron burns and car magazines and are pale and boring." In Jill's school, this was in fact true, although she had only assumed them to be boring and had never taken the time to find out for herself. They were pale because they spent all their time soldering together electronic components indoors and never got out onto the moor. If Jill had known what one particular boy had used his electronics for, she would have been even less friendly to scientists. Rocket's face finally broke into a smile, and he was about to tell her that her top lip was covered with flour from the fresh-baked roll when a voice from the cottage opposite distracted them both. The voice came from a woman in a curiously old-fashioned costume at the cottage door. "Cooey! Do help yourselves, my ducks." Jill, who was sitting with her back to the cottage, stifled a surprised cough and sprayed some salad and cheese across the table. "That's very kind," Rocket called. "Is this your picnic?" The lady's good-natured smile broadened. "Yes, I puts it out for all the travellers who comes by. I enjoys a little company. Come on in and say hello when you're done and finished." The lady disappeared for a moment inside the cottage, re-emerging with a large glass jug that looked as if it was full of homemade lemonade. Jill swiveled around. "Thank you very much," she said as the lady approached. "My friend was a little worried about the food. He hoped that it wasn't trespassing." "Don't be silly, my dears," said the lady, and carried on in such endearing tones that Rocket found himself a little ashamed not to be eating. He started to nibble at some freshly baked trout and some potato salad at the far end of the table, poured himself a glass of wine, and surveyed their lady host. She was by now cutting another chunk of cheddar from the large round cheese and encouraging Jill to sample the delights of her lemon cake. Jill was pleased to meet her. This professional grandma could be a useful ally in getting rid of Rocket again, and in the meantime, Jill was enjoying the food. Maybe I could try screaming and blame him for something, then get the local authorities to delay him. I wonder who watches over this part of the moor and the road. Somehow, Jill got the feeling that the police were presently out of reach. But this is where I'll lose him for sure. Jill looked up at the lady and smiled. What is it about her that is so familiar, she thought.